Welcome in, everybody. You know who I am by now. If you don't, I am Lauren Carpenter. You can find me at Stepmom Lauren, and you just made it in to Fireside Friday. I should probably put my banner up here so people, yeah, right up there. Fireside Friday with Stepmom Lauren, and joining me today is Kelly Singh. I'm just kidding. It's not. She couldn't make it. She had an emergency she had to deal with, so unfortunately, she couldn't make it with us on this Friday. But we will be having her on the show. I am absolutely sure of it because, to quote her new addiction is the Prize Picks and Underdog over-unders. But my savior of the universe is Chase, who is joining me yet again because he is a champ and he filled in for me last minute. Thank you so much for joining me, Chase. How are you, my friend?
Doing well, doing well. Just staying busy. I had to get out an article for Nate Polvolt over there for Trophy Smack. It's been very hectic afternoon, but we're getting things done. We're knocking stuff out. Now I get to do the show and then get to prep for DFS after this. So very
Yeah, so
excited.
he's busy as shit and he's still taking time out of his day to come and join me. We'll make it a quick show for you, Chase, so that you don't have to spend a ton of time here yakking it up with me, although I always do love your presence. Real quick, everybody, we have the final days to win the signed Jerry Jeudy Mini helmet, which, yeah, right there, signed Jerry Jeudy Mini helmet. Very special thank you to Scott Frankel, who submitted a picture of his signed Michael Thomas jersey that he received. Thank you very much, Scott. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you, and I'm glad that you got your jersey. It's very easy to submit, everybody. Sign up for my website, stepmomlauren.com. I had one of those in here that we could do it, whatever. You can also use the promo code SML at underdogfantasy.com, which we will be talking about. That also gets you entered in to win. Yes, sir. I love it. Thank you. Look at that guy. Look at that guy over there. The Power Ranger. You know, I have a pink dirt bike helmet that I should have put on and been the pink Power Ranger. Why didn't you discuss this with me? Because I could have made this happen.
I didn't even think about it. And I don't think this is going to work because you probably can't hear me very well. But
actually, we can hear you quite well. I can anyway.
really?
It's slightly muffled, but actually surprisingly not that bad.
Well, I don't think this thing is made of talking very much because it is fogging up, but I'll see how long I can last with it. I figured might as well be festive, right? I saw in the comments how they were commenting on your hairpiece.
Thank you.
Like, hey.
Thank you, everybody, for joining me. I know. I love it. Halloween is right around the corner, everybody. So last few days to do that, subscribe to my YouTube channel, subscribe to my website, share this video on social media. You can do that either on Facebook. You can retweet this on Twitter. I get the analytics for it. And a one lucky winner will win the signed Jerry Jeudy Mini helmet. And remember last time, Chase, when I made you have to decide which one that you were going to pick on the giveaway?
Oh, yeah, I remember.
This is the other giveaway. It is a signed T. Higgins football. This is a signed T. Higgins football that will be my giveaway for November. So just getting everybody that heads up. This is what's coming next month for November. This month for October, it's a signed Jerry Jeudy Mini helmet. Go ahead, subscribe to my website, subscribe to my YouTube channel here, YouTube, Stepmom Lauren. Also, just follow me too at places. I keep track of all of those things. I have the analytics. I've got all the numbers. I get emails about it. So thank you everyone so much for joining me. I really appreciate everyone being here today. Let's get right down to it, shall we? Chase, before we hop into, I'll start with my Prize Picks and Underdogs, and then we'll go into yours. But tell everybody what you're working on and where they can find you.
Oh man, I'm working on making money pretty much every week. I'm just doing these picks on Underdog, and it's been fun. Last week, what was I spent 60, made 600. It's
Heck
been fun.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, it's been fun. I don't like throwing a ton of money at it. Like I think we've talked about this before in your shows. I'm somebody that takes 3 to 4 bets per weekend, and I'll throw $20 at a bet or so. And if I don't feel great about it, I'm not going to force myself to try to work in bets. I'm just going to pick my top, probably 10 bets or so. I'm going to do different combinations of it and throw, 60, $80 at it. And I typically end up doing, one where it's uninsured, one where it's insured. So if I miss one pick, I don't feel bad about it because I'm still going to end up making $50 off that. Or technically it's like 10 because you spend $40 on the 2 lineups, you end up making 50. So then you end up coming out $10 positive. So it's still a good day. If I miss completely, which doesn't happen very often, then, it's brutal. But guess what? If you hit, you throw $40 at it, it's going to turn into 600. So I love it.
That's awesome. And that's a really good piece of advice to everybody. If you have a gambling problem, make sure that you go to the correct channels to help fix that. We're not throwing hundreds of dollars at this. This is just supposed to be fun. So, you're not going to be throwing away your paycheck here. My max bet is $25. That's
Yep.
the only thing I will put in on anything. I usually go anywhere between 5 to 25. If I'm super strong on one, it's 25. If I'm not, I'm like, maybe it'll hit. I did get boofed on the Thursday night game, though, because I was going to hit my 5-leg parlay if Tom Brady and Lamar Jackson threw at least one interception. Didn't happen.
You love
I
those
was upset.
interceptions. You love those.
I do. I really do. I do. And normally they hit. This was the first time that I didn't get a hit on one of my interceptions, maybe the second time. And it really peeved me. It peeved me. But much ado about nothing. I don't think I have an interception because, fool me once, shame on me, or you. Fool me twice, shame on me. But this is what I have for I did a 4-leg parlay on Prize Picks. When I was going through them, it was kind of one of those weird ones where I'm like, I don't know. I don't trust in these lines right now. And actually on Thursday, Prize Picks moved their lines like 2 hours before the game started. So I didn't really have a ton of faith in the other ones that I saw out there. But these are my Prize Picks lines here, everybody. Let me see if we can change this view up. No, that doesn't work at all, does it? Let's go this way. That doesn't work either. Bye, Chase.
Bye. I don't even know if you
can JK. What was the other one? There it was. All right. So the first one I have here is Kirk Cousins. And I did the over on 265.5 passing yards. I know that is pretty tough line. It seems like it's a lot, but they're playing the Arizona Cardinals, and they have allowed quite a few passing yards to quarterbacks. And I think that coming off of their bye here too, I think that Kirk Cousins is going to light it up. So I'm excited about this one. I did the over on 265.5 passing yards for Kirk Cousins. I also did the over on Latavius Murray. Now, I don't know what's going on with Latavius Murray and Melvin Gordon, but I tell you what, I trust Murray a lot more than I trust Gordon. But his rushing yards here was only 37.5. That was like, okay, so you rush, 38 yards, you're good. That, to me, that seems like this would work. And they're going up against Jacksonville, which is pretty good against the run, but they're not incredibly awesome, and they can get gashed on bigger plays. So I like the Latavius Murray line on this one more so than I liked the Melvin Gordon line. So I'm going the over on Latavius Murray. And then I also took the 49ers defense. We all know that Matt Stafford likes to get sacked. I think he just likes to get pummeled into the ground. It happened in Detroit. It's happening now with the Rams. So this is kind of a lot because it's 3 sacks, but this is also the vaunted San Francisco defense who plays the Rams very, very hard. This is a wonderful rivalry, and I have a feeling that they are going to want to smash Matt Stafford's life into the ground early and often, and I have a feeling that the 49ers can get well over 3 sacks, so I took the over. And I also went with Derek Carr here. I really love this line against New Orleans. New Orleans secondary has been beat up. They are hurt on offense and on defense, and I think that Derek Carr can pass for more than 1.5 touchdowns, meaning 2 touchdowns. Either that's to Hunter Renfrow, it could be to Mac Hollins, who I really like as a sleeper this week. Devontae Adams, of course. Even Josh Jacobs is getting involved in that passing game. So I'm taking the over on Derek Carr here. How do you feel about these chases? Is there one that stands out to you as like a no way?
So I don't want to say, no way up against the Saints. I do think that Derek Carr could easily get in there, with 2 touchdowns. It just really depends on the health of his team. I think they expect Devontae Adams to play like 100%, but he's not going to be healthy, gung ho, ready to rock and roll. Mac Hollins is an interesting pick, and he could absolutely hit. But if they get down towards the goal line and they kind of slow play this, we could see Josh Jacobs do what he did last week. Maybe not as efficiently, but we could still see him vulturing some goal line touches, some touches inside the 10 that could end up making me a little bit concerned about Derek Carr. I don't hate it. It's just something that makes me double think it. I really like your Kirk Cousins pick, to be honest. He probably, his line probably dropped a little bit just because of last week's performance where he faced the Dolphins, right? And
2 weeks ago. They were on a bye last week.
Or 2 weeks ago, I apologize. So his line probably dropped.
How dare
a bit,
you get off my show?
I know, right? But the Vikings were winning for the majority of that game. They scored what? There was no touchdowns scored by. I'm sorry, did I say the Vikings? There were no touchdowns scored by the Dolphins until the 4th quarter. So there's no need for Kirk Cousins to pass. He still threw 2 touchdowns. He was still extremely efficient in that outing, having a 66.7% completion rating. The games before that, 296 yards, 273 yards, 260 yards. He had a game up against the Eagles. Eagles are a very good defense, 221 yards. So that's still not that far off. But then the game before that up against the Packers, 277 yards. So he's pretty much hitting that line or crushing that line in almost every single one thus far on the season, I think that's an absolute strike for that pick. In
Like strike
terms
as in like strike
like
in bowling.
yeah, strike and bowling. Like you're
Not a
you're
strike in baseball.
no, I think that's a great one. As
We'll see
for
how this turns out by the end of the weekend, which strike it actually is.
yeah, no kidding. As for Latavius Murray, I haven't had a chance to really look into that line as much. It definitely makes me nervous because Latavius Murray, but
I
Melvin
literally
Gordon hasn't been
asked him
able to
to
do
do this
anything.
45 minutes ago, everybody. And the first thing he said to me backstage was, I really haven't had enough time to prepare. And he hasn't shut up with all the damn stats that he just knows off the top of his head. So carry on.
I'll keep trying. And then your 49ers one I actually really love. I mean, Matthew Stafford hasn't been able to stay on his feet. The 49ers create significant pressure up front. I know 3 sacks is a lot to hope for, but God, Stafford's had at least 4 games, I believe, maybe 5 with at least 3 sacks thus far in the season. That's a once again an obvious pick to take the over on. I like it. The
I
one
was
thing that
actually surprised that it was at a 3, to be honest. I thought that they would have put this at a 4 or even a 5 because he has been sacked 7 times at least once this year. It's
I
shocking.
think it's actually twice that he's gotten sacked 7 times, then
Yep.
once 5 times, if I remember right, over the first like 4 or 5 games. But the things that I hate, right? I hate when these lines, these companies, they put an even line. It's like I see you, I know what you're
Ugh.
doing. You're pretty much saying 3.5 at this point in time. You're not saying 3. You're saying 3.5. So that makes me a little bit more hesitant because now they're just playing with it. And maybe a couple teams or a couple of people took the under. It was sitting at 3.5. But if it was sitting at 2.5 and they're bumping up to 3, that's something that you might want to go ahead and run over to and place a bet on right now because they might end up taking that option, that prop off the table here shortly if too many people keep on putting that over.
Yes, that's correct. And that actually did happen. So for anyone who's new to over-unders, either whatever platform that you play on, keep an eye on injured players because once they are either A, ruled out or they are going to be limited, normally these companies take them completely off. So that is a perfect time to hit the under on some of these players if you know that they're going in. So I did the under with Mark Andrews on several different platforms that I did for Thursday night, and he didn't do much because he was hurt going into it. We kind of knew that. So just little tips and tricks to keep in mind. I'm gonna head on over to my underdog here, Chase, unless there's anything else here that stands out to you.
No, honestly, I'm ready to go. Let's
Let's
do it.
Let's do it. Another one that I've found that I really like to do is the field goals, especially those tried and true field goals. Like I had Ryan Suckup is another one of my lines last night. Today's Friday, isn't it? Last night. Wow, it feels like a millennia ago that the Thursday night football game happened, which was an interesting game, by the way. I don't know.
It was.
Poor Tom Brady. Poor Tom Brady.
Well, so like I wanted, like all my numbers told me to take all the unders, right? I wanted, like my intuition was telling me, hey, we got a bunch of injuries in the secondary for the Tampa Bay Bucks. Like, if we can see, some high level production from
And
Rashad
Lamar
Bateman
only rushed for like 43 yards. Like, what?
I took the unders on a lot of stuff, and then I ended up getting screwed because I also took the unders on Brady for the passing yards.
Same.
And then on the other end, when I put my bets into hedge my bets, I took the overs on Mark Andrews and on Rashad Bateman, and both of them ended up going out. I need to pay more attention to that because the Ravens are a team that anytime they have a player coming back from injury, they always limit their snaps because they do have significant depth, but that's also just how Harbaugh's operated. And I knew that going into this. I knew that, and I still wanted to take a shot. I didn't take the over on receptions. I took the over on yards because all they need is a couple plays where I was taking the over on yards for Bateman, for Andrews, and I was like the numbers told me to go under. I ignored the numbers, and I kind of got left out to dry for the most part last night.
Isn't betting so fun?
It is. I have a blast with it, as long as I'm not.
I was so mad last night because I literally almost made $1,200 last night if those two quarterbacks would have just thrown a damn interception. And Lamar Jackson has been good for it over the last couple of weeks. Tom Brady, not so much, but with him trying to force feed Mike Evans, I was like, oh, this is a guarantee. Kill me. I was less than pleased. Anywho, moving on to this week 8 for the, I did a nice combo here of the morning game. I think I have a morning game on here. Yes, I do. Of the morning game, 1:00 game, and 4:00 slate. So I did one that's kind of all across Sunday. I did not do Sunday night or Monday. This is just the morning, and then Eastern time is what I'm talking about, 1:00 and then the 4:00 slate. So my very first one here I have is Brandon McManus. I mean, the dude just is literally the only thing scoring for this team. So I have him on the over of 1.5 field goals made. He's been good for it. He's hit 2 or more field goals. I think I want to say 5 out of 7 weeks, and that's 2 or more. Yeah, I think the least I think it's like 1. Either way, he's kicked a field goal. I'm good. I'm very good for it with 2. Another interesting thing here is this is going to be in London, everybody. So don't forget to set your lineups Saturday night. This is a London game, especially if you're on the West Coast. Thank you very much for watching. London game, basically a home game for Jacksonville. I think they're like 4-2 when they play in London. Jacksonville is very good. So I have a feeling that the Denver Broncos are going to need to put points on the board. And if they cannot get into the end zone, which Russell Wilson seems to be allergic to, they're going to be using Brandon McManus. So just as a PSA, set your lineup Saturday night. My next one is Jalen Hurts. I love this and I hate it at the same time. So Jalen Hurts, I have him over on 1.5 passing touchdowns. I wish that there was a line here that was passing and rushing, something like that, that wasn't astronomical, that I would feel really comfortable with. But I like this one. The only fear is that he's going to do a QB sneak and get in for a couple of those touchdowns, at least one, and that may take away the opportunity. But at the same time, I like this matchup. I like what they're doing. Pittsburgh is not nearly as stout as they used to be. So I'm okay doing the over on 1.5 passing touchdowns for Jalen Hurts. Don't forget, Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, even Miles Sanders out of the backfield, Boston Scott out of the backfield. So I think that there is opportunity here for him to have at least 2 passing touchdowns. Next one, Raheem Mostert. This was a smash for me. It's only 67.5. Now, I do understand that they're going up against Detroit. This could be a solid amount of passing, but if it is, it's going to be early. And then that's probably going to change because Miami is going to come out to a huge lead. They're going to rely on Raheem Mostert, and I think 67.5 rushing yards is decent. I don't want to say it's low because it's not. Because they have so many offensive weapons there on the receiving side. Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, even Mike Gesicki is starting getting involved. But I like this on the 67.5 rushing over against the Detroit Lions. I'm sorry, honey, I love you, but the Detroit Lions are terrible on defense. Absolutely terrible. So I went the over on Raheem Mostert. If you don't feel comfortable with that, I get it, but I like the over on it. You can go less if you don't like it, or just go to another line altogether. Next, another kicker, Nick Folk. All right, New England and the Jets. The Jets defense is actually quite good, and I have no idea what the hell is going on with Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi, because Bill Belichick's like, yeah, Mac Jones is good to go. Didn't name him as starter. And then during the game, when they pulled Mac Jones to put Bailey Zappi in, then they're like, oh, that was the game plan all along. And then we're going to put Mac Jones back in, so don't worry about it, which they never did. I don't know what the hell is going on in New England. So, yeah, this is going to be disgusting. So give me Nick Folk for 1.5 field goals made, because I have a feeling that they're going to be kicking field goals just to put points on the board. Again, one of those situations where I do like that. Wan'Dale Robinson, I had to do this. I'm so glad that you are on the show with me. But Wan'Dale Robinson is now my go-to. And let's see. I have him higher than 9.95 fantasy points. This is half-point PPR scoring. I really like Wan'Dale Robinson for that. And it's fantasy scoring. So that includes rushing. It includes receptions. It includes receiving yards. And it also includes touchdowns. Give me Wan'Dale Robinson. What do you think?
Yeah,
Am I cray-cray?
I don't think you're cray-cray. I think it's very interesting. I mean, the Jalen Hurts thing I like. You brought up, like, the fact of him rushing it in, and that makes a lot of sense because the way the Eagles have operated, their average depth of target has been like 7 yards per attempt, which isn't great, right? It still could end up blowing up this week if we can see, like, Quez Watkins, for example, get behind the defense. If we can see A.J. Brown beat up on some of these inferior talents in the secondary and break off a big one. So I'm more looking at Jalen Hurts as a potential blow-up candidate this week with high upside. If they stop dinking it off, dunking it off to these slot or slant routes and passes to the running backs. I like that one a lot. The Brandon McManus one, I took that and a few different ones that I've already lined up. So I like the Brandon McManus pick. Raheem Mostert makes so much sense because Detroit Lions just absolutely struggle. I mean, all your picks make sense. Now, with Wan'Dale Robinson, it does make me nervous because I think that you're going to have to see a touchdown for this.
Have faith breathe, Chase.
I love
Do
Lawndale.
not besmirch my Wandale.
You know, I hit you up as soon as he ended up starting
As
getting
he
work,
did.
right? His
Wandale
first
Robinson
reception.
sighting. It's like,
Yes.
Also, Kadarius Toney was traded, but I don't really think that matters because he was never on the field anyway. Continue.
No, but you're gonna have to see. Let's just say he ends up putting up 50 yards receiving, 60 yards receiving. He's still gonna have to have 8 receptions in order to hit that number, which I think that is plausible. But the thing is, we're not going to see a lot of. I don't think we're going to see a lot of plays run this game. We're talking about New York Giants offense who loves to run the ball, who typically has a slower pace of play. So you're going to see clock run off on a regular basis. Meanwhile, the Seahawks have lost their big play receiver. So any kind of opportunity for the Giants to get the ball back really quickly without having like that big play essentially come from the Seahawks. Sure, Marquise Goodwin could end up providing it. I just don't see that happening as much, especially the Giants defense or secondary has actually been pretty good this year.
That's what I'm counting on. I know the pace of play sucks, but I am counting on the Giants giving Geno Smith a run for his money. So the other thing too, one of the reasons I went over on the Wandale Robinson here is Daniel Bellinger is ruled out as well. So Daniel Jones has limited options in the passing game, except now Wandale Robinson and 2 tight ends. I don't even know how to pronounce their names, except one of them really sounds like he should be going to a prep school up in the Hamptons in New England. It just literally sounds like that. Like, in Little League baseball, which is one of my favorite.
Tanner Hudson?
Yes. I think it is Tanner Hudson. I think it is Tanner. It's one of those. But like, if anyone watches Little League baseball, speaking of which, these are my Halloween nails. I'm very festive today. Yay. If anyone watches Little League, the names in Little League are amazing. It's like, yes, this is like literally High School Musical. It's phenomenal. Anyway, he reminds me of a name from Little League, but either way, I do agree with you, but I think Wandale Robinson is going to see a hell of a lot more targets without Daniel Bellinger.
Yeah.
And the only option that they have is to literally shut down Saquon Barkley, but he's still open in the passing game, which I do get. So then it's going to be Daniel Jones running. If they can keep him marginally from rushing too much, I think he's going to be peppering, and I think Wandale Robinson is going to have 2 touchdowns in this game.
Whew, that's fire. Like I said, if he hits for a touchdown, then you don't need the 8 receptions.
Almost
you don't
as
even
fire as
need
my
that many
headband.
yards. I think that he could get in the end zone. It makes me a little bit nervous, like playing the fantasy points aspect instead of like the receptions aspect.
I do agree with you. It did make me nervous as well, but I think I just talked myself into it. And it was for the reasons I said before. It's because if he gets any kind of rushing attempts, if he gets any receptions plus yards, and if he scores the touchdown. So it kind of all encompasses anything that he can do on offense. So that's why I didn't mind the 9 point, is it 9.95? I can't read. It's too small.
9.95.
9.95. There we go. Excellent. Awesome sauce. All right. Enough about me. It's time for you, Chase. Let's get to yours. Go.
Woo. All right. So
I love these, by the way. I'm stealing them for myself.
Do it. Go ahead. Let's go. Trevor Lawrence, I'm going to pick him to throw less than 230 yards, 230.5 yards, excuse me. The Broncos have only allowed 2 quarterbacks over 230 yards passing so far on the season. 41 attempts from, I believe it was Matt Ryan, 57 attempts from Justin Herbert. I don't think this is going to be a high-scoring game enough to see them pass the ball over and over and over again. And we know what Travis Etienne could end up adding, which is interesting because I did take Travis Etienne on the higher end yards, right? Last week, he ended up not putting up a ton of yards, but he didn't have to. The Broncos are fine up against pass-catching running backs. They do pretty well overall. They limit it, but you've still seen pass-catching running backs go up for 20 yards on multiple different occasions. I think the Travis Etienne, this is part of his game. With Trevor Lawrence having less than 230.5 total yards, that'll pretty much insinuate that the Broncos will likely keep this as a close game, but it won't be high scoring. We're going to see likely the Broncos start to pull ahead towards the tail end of the game. Trevor Lawrence is going to have to pass with the Broncos secondary and how they're shutting down everybody. I don't even know who's going to get the Surtain treatment this week. I think that Travis Etienne is going to have to see targets. There's no way that he sees less than 4 targets this week, being the only running back in the backfield. Yeah. So I think that he could easily turn 4 targets into 20 yards. And honestly, I think he sees more than that. I just don't see any less than 4. So I'm taking Travis Etienne higher, 20.5 yards. As for Justin Jefferson up against Arizona, their secondary.
Sorry, hang on. Malfunction.
You're good. Their secondary.
I just didn't like it, so I was like, nah, we'll skip that one. I'm sorry, what was that again?
They just gave up over 50 yards receiving to 4 different receivers this past week up against the Saints. Rashid Shaheed ended up having, ended up having 50 receiving yards. Chris Olave had 100. Kevin White had 64 on just one reception. Traquan Smith had 59 yards. I understand game script, allowed them to do this towards the tail end of the game where they had to throw a ton. But honestly, even if you take half that, you cut it in half and you give it to Justin Jefferson, he's going to end up performing at a high end level this week. I'm taking the over on Justin Jefferson. I really don't care about the coverage. He should be fine. Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry has had an amazing past, 3 games now. I think he's had over 100 yards rushing, I believe, in all 3 games, if I remember correctly. He gets the Houston Texans, who I believe are the worst team up against running backs on the ground. I know 100 yards is a lot, and we talked about it, I think, 3 weeks ago when we discussed the over on Nick Chubb. I believe it was up against the Texans. Regardless, I mean, this should be a smash pick for everybody. 135 yards on the ground per game to running backs. 3 touchdowns last week, 145 yards up against Josh Jacobs, 7.15 yards rushing as a whole. Travis Etienne the week before that only had 10 rushes, 71 yards. I mean, these guys are getting 7 yards per carry. The starting running backs are, and easily. I mean, Derrick Henry could have 200 yards rushing in this. If the over under was still at 105, 110, I still might take the over on his rushing yards this week. Ryan Tannehill's not healthy. He's not healthy right now. They're not going to ask him to drop back without Treylon Burks, without any receivers really. I think that Kyle Phillips, their slot receivers, out as well, if I remember correctly. Derrick Henry's going to see 25 rushing attempts this game, could easily get 200 yards. 100 should be a smash pick for everybody. And Liz Loza is actually the one that brought this to my attention when I was posting about not liking the overs for this week. She made sure that I saw the Derrick Henry over, and I'm like, oh my God, yes, yeah, give me that over.
For sure.
And then Saquon Barkley. So Saquon Barkley's tricky here because Seattle Seahawks have been slightly better up against running backs to an extent the past couple games. I say that very loosely because they really haven't. They've been absolutely brutal up against running backs as a whole. But I had an option to take the over on 84.5 rushing yards. And if we do see the Seahawks give them, any kind of run for their money, like you talked about, like this could be a competitive game. And we could see Saquon see 5, 6, 7 targets, 5, 6, even 7 receptions. The over, or the pass or receiving yards, that's off the slate for Underdog. I think I saw it the other day and it was sitting there like 40. So essentially they're assuming that he ends up getting 120 yards, but nobody was taking the over on both receiving and rushing yards. They were taking pretty much just the over on receiving. So like you're going to see him pretty easily, I think, crack 105 all-purpose yards this week, which he did last week with no problem. He got very close the week before that, and I think for that he broke it as well. So up against Seahawks, who once again are brutal up against pass-catching running backs and brutal up against running backs as a whole, should allow Saquon Barkley to be a smash play. I like Derrick Henry a little bit more, but Saquon Barkley is right there behind Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. And I like those two because when I looked at them, I kept looking at them. And I'm like, why are these intriguing? These are intriguing. But there were other ones that I kind of liked a little bit better. But listening to you talk about those, it makes a lot of sense. So as soon as we're done now, I'm going to go and do that. I'm going to put them in my phone.
It's weird because like normally you would never touch an over at over 100 yards, right? Like that just doesn't happen. But you'd smash it like 92, 93, 94. It's just that 3 digits, right? Like the triple digits make you nervous when it comes to punching an over. But up against these teams, I mean, you really shouldn't be too nervous about it. Even if they stack the box, that could mean more breakaway runs because there's nobody in the secondary to stop it. All they need to do is find a hole where, one defensive lineman gets blocked into a linebacker and Derrick Henry's gone. Saquon Barkley's gone. Like, there's no way a safety one-on-one is going to stop one of these guys or a corner.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even know if once Derrick Henry gets going, I don't think a Mack truck can stop that man. He would just run right through it. He'd be like, what was that, a mosquito? Don't even know. Yep. Let's answer some questions here before I let you go, my good friend. Brett Thunder. Yes. All right. Connor has been ruled out. Scrambling for a running back. Williams is a game time decision. So should he grab, is it Keontae Ingram? Which is, I can always remember his name because it's wine. Or is Williams the better start if he plays? Ugly either way. This is half point PPR. I would zag away from this.
Wait, what Williams are we talking about?
The Damian Williams, or is it Daryl? No,
Daryl. Damian's
Daryl.
on the
God, that always
Bears.
confuses me. The Falcons. Daryl Williams.
Yeah, I mean, Benjamin's going to be the starter, right? So
That's what I think. And actually, Albert asked if Eno was on waivers. If I doubt Eno is on waivers because I think I've answered questions from Brett before. Brett, if Eno is on waivers, obviously you're going to grab him. I doubt it. But I would stay away from Williams. He has to score a touchdown to even make him relatively significant, and even that, not so much. I don't trust this situation. I would try to look on the wire. If it's your flex, if it's your RB2, I'm sorry.
yeah, I mean, there's no way I would play either one of these guys and feel good about it. I don't care about Keontae Ingram. And it's funny because you brought up Williams, right? If Williams is healthy, then it completely destroys Keontae Ingram. But I did some research in the offseason, and Williams inside the 5-yard line, if I remember correctly, scored on 50% of his touches. So he's their goal line back, whether we want him in it or not. He likely is. I just like that. Just
he's got to score touchdowns. But that was before Marcus Mariota, right? Or are you talking about this year? Is he's the 50%?
Yeah, 50. It was prior to this year happening.
Okay, so that's the only thing that scares me is Marcus Mariota, because the quarterback sneaks, what he's capable of doing with his legs just completely shortcuts any RB2 option in that offense, and that just totally worries me. But yeah, you and I think are both on the same page here, where it's like I would avoid this situation if you can, but if you have to, and Williams is good to go, then you might have to, but just pray that he gets into the end zone, because he's not going to see the volume.
Wait, I think we're a little bit confused on which Williams, because I was thinking he meant Darrell Williams for the Cardinals.
Yes. Am I thinking? Did I say Damian again?
Yeah, I think you were talking about the Falcons.
Can we change their names?
It doesn't matter. Neither one should be in question. Keontae Ingram, I'm not playing. Williams, I'm not playing. Like, go find somebody else.
Yes. I hate these Williams. And then there's Mike Williams, Damian Williams, Daryl Williams, and all the Pierces now.
I know, right?
It's so, like, when people ask me start sit questions, they're like, Pierce or this person in my flex? And I'm like,
every time.
Which Pierce? There's a lot of them. Or like Robinson. Which Robinson? Lord, the running back. Which running back Robinson? Oh, my word. All right. From Julio. What do you guys think of this trade? On Thursday night, he traded away Leonard Fournette, Rachaad White, and Gabe Davis. Wow, that's a lot. For T. Higgins. You got lucky. And then woke up on Friday morning and immediately had buyer's remorse until the Chase news. That is interesting. I think that's a lot for T. Higgins. I don't hate it, but I think you could have gotten away with like one running back and one wide receiver for T. Higgins. I think it was a lot. I think it was a little expensive. What do you think, Chase?
I mean, Fournette's still like, he's a top 10 running back this year. I want to say it depends on your scoring settings, but I think he's like RB7 prior to last night's game. So like you should have been able to get him for just Fournette,
right.
Possibly, unless this is dynasty. So I think you massively overpaid. Luckily the Chase news broke, but that's not good when the playoffs come back around. The one I will say, the one bright spot to this is I want to say it's week 17. It's the final week of the NFL season, and I believe the Bengals play the Bills. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think they play the Bills, so that could be a massive shootout if you can make it to championship week. And Higgins gets to face the Bills in a massive shootout. Obviously you're hoping that maybe some injuries happen to the Bills. Maybe their secondary falls apart a little bit because their secondary has been very good. But either way, like Higgins at least should see opportunities to put points up in a game that should matter tremendously for real NFL purposes. And, we saw what the Bills could put up. We've seen what the Bengals could put up. We've seen it. So it is a possibility. I'm going to double check that and make sure.
Yeah, I think you did overpay here, Julio. You got lucky because of the Chase news, but it's still overpaying either way. Those are three incredibly talented players that are fantasy viable now. It did free up some roster spots if that's what you needed as well, but I think you might have overpaid on that one. You did overpay on that.
Monday night game. In week 17,
that is going to be
how many fantasy playoffs are going to be decided on week 17 by the Bills and Bengals on Monday night? It's going to be sick.
Oh my God.
It's going to be sick.
That's going to be insane. That's going to be insane. Oh my
Don't
God.
ask me how I knew that.
I'm really excited about that. Oh my God. I can't wait to get there. Okay. Emmanuel. Hello, Emmanuel. Thank you so much. Daryl Henderson or Deonta Foreman in full PPR. I'm going Deonta Foreman here. Chuba Hubbard has been ruled out. Obviously, there's no Christian McCaffrey anymore. He gone. So I'm going to go Deonta Foreman over Daryl Henderson. And I'm going to go Tyler Bass. Kicker question, Emmanuel. I love you. God
Yeah.
love you.
Up against the Falcons, it's Deonta Foreman. Like
Mhm.
he's probably going to finish in the top 15 for running backs, likely the top 10. So like, there's no real start sit question for me unless
I was
you're
going to say, I
loaded.
would put him at RB11, RB10
Yeah,
at the end
he'll
of the
be
week.
there. He'll
Oh,
be
yeah.
there. And Darrell Henderson, I'm just too worried about this offense. So yeah, and then for kickers, I haven't looked at the kickers. I'm not gonna lie. I was
Tyler
gonna
Bass.
try and bullshit for a second. Tyler Bass. Let's go Tyler Bass.
Go Tyler Bass. Kickers are kickers. They have feelings too. I get it. James Brown, would you drop Deonta Foreman or Brian Robinson to pick up Kareem Hunt in case he gets traded? I mentioned this in my Wind Up Wednesday show with FTN because I have dealt with a question like this before. I can't remember, James, if it was you that asked me. I don't think it was. But for me personally, when it comes to speculative ads for a player that could possibly be traded, I don't like that because you're picking up someone who isn't necessarily super fantasy relevant in the hopes that they might become fantasy relevant, and you're dropping players who are currently fantasy relevant. So I believe that, especially this week on Deonta Foreman, I would not drop him. And with Brian Robinson, I get it because Antonio Gibson is now getting more involved again. And he's heavily involved now with Taylor Heineke under center. I understand maybe the need for it. If you don't need either one of these players, try trading and then seeing what you can do with that. But I don't know if I really believe in Kareem Hunt if he goes to another team as much as I believe in those guys where they are right now. That's a big thing for me. I don't like to speculative pick up a player because I think he might be okay. But if you're not playing either one of these two running backs, play Foreman this week, then I guess just not how I roll when it comes to looking who I want to pick up from the wire.
Yeah, it's interesting because we see Brian Robinson getting the red zone touches. He obviously had the touchdown in week 6, but like, he ran 6 routes last week and ended up seeing 2 targets on those 6 routes. I think that's a little bit lucky. Without those 2 targets, he'd be sitting 7 or 8 points, if I remember correctly, on his rushing yards. So like Brian Robinson for me just isn't interesting, playing a 47% snap share and a 3-headed monster where they want to use Antonio Gibson now in space. And Brian Robinson's just going to pound the rock on first and second down between the 20s for the most part. Like I said, I know that he's still got the red zone touches, but it's not like he was, specifically the goal line back. And it's not like they ever want to get that way just because of how Ron Rivera's backwards way of thinking. So I would definitely not drop Foreman because Foreman's a stud. And Robinson, for me, I might do. I understand that, you don't want to pick up a player just because of speculation of a trade. But when you look at the upside that Brian Robinson gives you on a weekly basis, let's just say he has a 14-point ceiling every week. If he scores a touchdown, he plays 60% of the snaps. Like, he's still only going to give you 14 points in a week. Kareem Hunt, meanwhile, if he ends up, receiving a role with, let's just say, the Rams, maybe, because Darrell Henderson can't stay healthy or something like that. We've seen Kareem Hunt in a primary role where his ceiling's more like 18 points or 20 points.
Yeah,
So
that
like,
makes sense.
I understand, like, you got to drop a primary player, but honestly, like, how often, look at the schedule, see how often, make sure you don't have any bye week issues or anything like that, but how often are you going to play Brian Robinson or put Brian Robinson in your starting lineup?
Exactly. That's that one caveat that I was going to add on is if you're not playing him anyway and he's just taking up space on your bench, I get that. I 100% get that. I think I'm just more conservative when it comes to that. I'm very instant gratification and like blinders on sometimes, but that's why I say just personally, it's not really a right or wrong answer here. It's your team. It's you do you. And Chase brings up a very, very good point here. You're looking at the ceiling of these players because you're not playing them for a safe floor because you have other options from what it sounds like that are your safe floor options and your high upside. He gives you really neither. So why not go for the higher upside player that may or may not have better opportunity moving forward? I totally get it.
Yeah, it's like picking up a quarterback, with starting quarterback that has an injury, that already exists. Like, Carson Wentz was dealing with a little bit of a lingering issue, right? So a lot of people picked up Taylor Heineke with slightly deeper rosters, keep in mind, and they would obviously have to be a 2-quarterback league for redraft. But a lot of people picked them up, and guess what? They're rewarded because now Carson Wentz is out for 4 to 6 weeks. So it's a precautionary type thing where you can get a significant advantage on your league. And anytime that you can end up with a top 15 running back that you pick up off waiver wires, that's phenomenal. And Brian Robinson's never going to be that guy.
Yeah, I like that. I'm my only concern with dropping Brian Robinson is if it's a keeper league, I would not drop him because I think that he's going to be phenomenal. That's one caveat. The other one too is I wonder how slowly that they are really integrating him back into the offense after he was shot twice. I mean, sorry, you're a beast. Do you remember what it was like in your 20s, like early 20s, when you were like, oh my God, I broke all my limbs, and like 3 weeks later, you're like, I'm great,
Dude,
like
if after the Fantasy Football Expo, it took me 4 weeks to get over the Fantasy Football Expo for my hangover. Okay, so you don't even got to tell me.
So for anyone who doesn't know or maybe missed Chase on our show earlier, before we let you all go, because I know we're running over time, we met at the Fantasy Football Expert in person finally, and my sweet husband Jeff, he was like just trying his hardest just to keep up because I knew everybody virtually. He really had never met anyone, but he didn't really care. But I think you and he chopped it up for a little bit at the bar. But we had so much fun. It is if you can get a chance to go to the Fantasy Football Expo in Canton, even you don't have to be an analyst or an expert or on TV or whatever. It doesn't even matter. Go as a fan. It is so fun because we are all usually drunk or like consuming some sort of ginormous amount of food or just fun. And it is, my husband said, he's like, I have never been in an area with thousands of people and everyone is nice. Every single person is nice here and everyone had a great time. There's no beef. There's no drama. It is absolutely fantastic. But speaking of no beef and no drama, you are no beef and no drama to me, my friend Chase. Thank you so much for joining me. Very last minute. Good luck with all the stuff that you have left to do today. And what are you doing tonight again? Because I know you have another show tonight.
So Player Profiler over there, you guys probably heard of
one of my favorite websites,
the Roto Underworld, right? We do our DFS show at 6 o'clock on their YouTube channel. So if you guys want some more advice, come join the chat. But no, we're gonna be having some fun. Jacob and I are setting it up. Jacob's actually on a show right now with Matt Kelly, the man, the myth, the legend, currently. So he's gonna end up coming off that show, and then we're going to jump into our top picks for DFS. We gave you guys like Saquon Barkley last week, a few others that absolutely smashed. So come join us if you guys want some good insight as to which games you should be targeting for DFS.
Yeah, absolutely. And they do great work over there this week. Yep. And Chase, you do great work over there. They also do great work. Thank you again for joining me. Make sure you follow him at FF_intervention. My boy Chase. Also remember, you can win a signed Jerry Jeudy Mini helmet. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Subscribe to my website. Share this video on any social platform. Comment on the tweet that came out too. Like any comments, any likes. I'm trying to grow my brand, Stepmom Lauren, as much as possible. And I reward y'all with some free swag. So everyone, enjoy your weekend. Thank you so much for joining us. Chase, I cannot thank you enough, man. I owe you so many drinks at the next expo. Like,
it's all good.
It's ridiculous how much I owe you. But thank you so much. And Kelly will be on with us soon. Hopefully next week I'll have a pretty big name. Hopefully. I'm trying to get Jeff Ratcliffe to come on my show.
I love Jeff.
I know. He's such a great dude. Anyway, have fun. Good luck this weekend, everybody. And hopefully everyone has a winning record in redraft as well as all of their picks. Love you guys. Wow.
Later.
Oh, and happy Halloween.